The U.S. men's national team just completed their first of 4 games in this Nation League window. It was a loss to the Swiss national team in Switzerland, and boy, there was some good. There was a lot of good, but there was some bad. There was some real bad. So I watched this game twice. I took a bunch of notes. We're going to jump into it. We're going to find out what went right, what went wrong, who's to blame, and what does this mean going forward into the Honduras game that is only a few days away. All that and more on this episode of the Yank Report. What's up? My name is Sam. Welcome to the Yank Report, the show where we talk about the U.S. men's national team, and this is a great time because we've got a ton of games coming up. So if you're not already subscribed, be sure to subscribe so you can keep track of all the action during this action-packed Nations League window. And if you like the channel and you want to support the channel, the easiest way to do so is hit the like button. That really helps things out. So I watched this game twice, once for pleasure, the second time mostly for pain. So this game came out very hot. I mean, the U.S. scored their first goal within the first 5 minutes, and really we're jumping on the front foot within the first 5 minutes. So the first goal went like this. Here are my notes. Yule intercepts the ball in midfield, dishes to Reyna, who attacks up the middle. Eventually, Reyna gets the ball in the elbow at the corner of the box. Leggett makes a nice run inside towards the near post, so the defender kind of goes with him. Then Sargent makes a run right after that, kind of following him. Reyna tries to get a ball into Sargent. The defender heads that ball down to Legett's feet. He kind of deflects it, cushions it towards Aronson. Aronson gets it right back to Leggett, and Leggett puts it away. 1-0 USA. And I think this Leggett goal is kind of a carbon copy of a lot of the Leggett goals that we've seen in friendlies in the last 6 months. I know Leggett gets a lot of criticism because he's not a player with a huge ceiling like a lot of these younger players in the pool. But it's a trend now at this point that whenever he gets in the box in the final third, he's able to create space for himself. He's able to get in positions where his teammates can find him with balls, and whenever he gets those balls, he's able to put them away. Now, don't get too comfortable because almost immediately the Swiss national team jumped back and tied it up against the U.S. And the way they tied it up was a sign of things to come and a sign of weakness within the team. At 9:42, just about 5 minutes after the U.S. scored the goal, the Swiss counter up the right. Serginho Dest was caught upfield, which happened over and over and over again. So Brooks ended up defending in space along the left back position that Serginho Dest had vacated. And boy, you know, John Brooks is clearly our best defender, but he does have weaknesses in his game. And transitional defending and defending speedy players out in space, that is just not his strong suit. And we saw over and over and over again, because Serginho Dest was getting caught upfield and because Jackson Yule does not have the range of a Tyler Adams, that Brooks was getting isolated in defense, and it was just not working out in our favor. In this particular instance, the Swiss burned us. John Brooks got isolated in that left back position. The Swiss player crossed it to Rodrigo, who was in front of Reggie Cannon. Rodrigo takes a shot from outside. Cannon sort of deflects it with his foot, and the deflection puts it past Horvath. Now, following the goal, the U.S. really dominated from there, man. I mean, our press was just suffocating the Swiss attack. They were having to work the ball back to their goalie, Sommer, for much of the game, and he was playing long balls, which were being picked up by McKenzie and John Brooks and just being recycled. And one of those led to probably one of the U.S.'s best chances of the first half. That happened in the 27th minute, and it happened because of two players who were absolutely ferocious in the press all game long, and that was Brennan Aronson and Josh Sargent. They both pressed the Swiss goalkeeper, and he kind of coughed it up to Sargent in the box. Sargent was able to lay it off to Leggett, and Leggett took a shot at the near post. Boy, that was not too far away. I thought for sure the U.S. was going to go 2 up at that point, and Leggett was going to have a second goal of the game, but it was not to be. But it was a fantastic chance created by the press that we saw from the U.S. that was just really stifling the Swiss attack for most of the first half. In fact, a big chunk of the first half was spent in the Swiss half of the field. The only time the Swiss really got opportunities was whenever they were able to counterattack, but the U.S. was able to stuff out a lot of those. It was a really impressive first half for the U.S. men's national team. Probably the best chance for the U.S. in the first half came in the 33rd minute whenever the U.S. had a corner kick. Now, we didn't win that corner kick, but the ball fell to, I believe, Brennan Aronson, who played it out to Serginho Dest, who was standing outside the box. And then Serginho Dest did that thing that Serginho Dest does whenever he basically just took on the entire nation of Switzerland and dribbled all of them. got one-on-one with the keeper, but just couldn't quite finish it with the left. He kind of hit it right at the goalie. This was an opportunity where, Dest is one of those players, man. He's one of those players that is just special, and he's probably going to deliver at least one moment every single game for the U.S. men's national team where he can break it wide open. This was that moment for Dest in this game. Unfortunately, he put it right at the keeper. If he would have put it a little bit to the side, man, this would have been 2-1. This was another moment where the U.S. sort of ability to retain possession and just keep the Swiss from being able to build up from the back led to a direct opportunity from the U.S. Unfortunately, it was not to be. At the 40-minute mark, the Swiss were able to find a good spell of possession. They played a ball in over the top where their opponent was one-on-one against Serginho Dest. He played a one-time cross back into the middle, and that cross caught Serginho Dest in the arm, a penalty for the Swiss. It would have been really tough if the Swiss were able to put it away, but fortunately Rodrigo put it wide. It was a really poorly taken penalty considering the quality of the player who took it. Starting the first half, the Swiss made a few substitutions, and I think the most important thing is they made a tactical change, which saw them. It looked like they brought on another striker, or at least moved the player up into a striker position, and the U.S. defense just did not deal with this very well, and almost immediately it started causing problems. Now, it wasn't as if it was a complete tale of two halves. It wasn't as if after the second half, the U.S. just was able to do nothing on offense. In fact, let's see, at the 51st minute mark, the U.S. Pressure in the final third leads to a Sargent interception. He passes it to Gio at the top of the 18. Gio shoots to the near post, and he barely misses. I mean, this was that opportunity for Gio that I think that Gio looks for every game, and we've seen him with Dortmund put those shots away, and it was a well-taken shot, and it just barely missed the post. It was one of those where the keeper barely moved because there was just nothing he could do about it. Gio sort of wrong-footed him, and it was just another moment where, man, a little bit closer, the U.S. would have been ahead, but it was not to be. Almost immediately after that, in the 52nd minute, Serginho Dest had a nice moment where he found himself on the left flank. It was one of those few moments where he was really attacking from the left flank. He played in a really nice cross to the near post of Josh Sargent. Josh Sargent got a header on it, but it was well wide of the near post. Now, following that opportunity for Sargent, things started to go south quickly for the U.S. We started to have probably our worst spell of the game. In the 53rd minute, Swiss had a counter. They caught Dest out once again, which was a reoccurring theme throughout the game. Brooks defends Mbolo in open space, which is not something we want ever. Mbolo blows by Brooks. Horvath makes a great save with his face. And I think it was after this moment that Brooks turned to Dest and just tore into him. I don't know what he said, but it didn't look like the greatest thing in the world. Now, the U.S. was able to punch back. In the 55th minute, John Brooks plays probably his best ball of the game over the top to Weston Mckinney. And notice this is the first time I'm saying Weston McKinney's name. And Weston McKinney makes that run that we saw him make at Juventus over and over again this season, where he finds himself in behind the defense. He plays a cross into the middle, but that cross is deflected out. Now, let's talk about Weston McKinney, because not a lot of people are talking about Weston McKinney. Weston McKinney came into this game as the captain, and Weston McKinney has kind of become the vocal leader of this team and the vocal leader in the locker room. And following that big season that he had with Juventus and his Champions League goal against Barcelona and all of his Champions League minutes and, his trophies and all that, we're expecting Weston McKinney to really put this team on his back and be a real leader on this field, both emotionally and in his play. And in this game, we really didn't get much of either. Now, I don't recall a game for the U.S. where I haven't seen Weston McKinney put in a crunching tackle to set the tone early on, but he didn't do that in this game. I don't recall many crunching tackles at all. I mean, he knocked some players over, but it wasn't really that aggression that I'm used to seeing from Weston McKinney. We're going to talk about Weston a little bit more whenever I get into the analysis after the game, but man, not hearing his name much in this highlights is pretty indicative of his performance. So in the 60th minute, the U.S. makes some substitutions. We take off John Brooks and Sebastian Lletget, and we bring on Tim Ream and Yunus Musa. And at that point, everything started to fall apart, man. The defense started to get just run through. We were struggling to keep up with the Swiss team playing through the middle, and more importantly, we were struggling to keep up with the emotion of the game. I think I would circle Serginho Dest as a player who, man, after a few rough moments in this game, he sort of started to check out. Like there was a point where it just like Serginho just wasn't there. We started to lose him both on offense, and we never really had him on defense. It was really tough to see, and I think that that's a point for such a young team, man. Staying in the games and keeping that mentality is something that we're just going to have. And it was tough seeing it in this game, just not being there, despite the amount of talent that we had on the field. And in the 62nd minute, we gave up one of the worst goals I've ever seen us give up. I mean, there was a cross into the box. All kinds of crazy things happened. Serginho Dest ended up doing a donkey kick that re-centered it for the Swiss team. Mbolo takes a shot at it, kind of misses it, hits off a ream, and then the Swiss players finally finish it. And it was just... So there's not a whole lot of highlights after that. One thing I did want to point out was Weston McKinney's best moment of the match came... Eventually, Reina came off, Weah came on. Weah makes a run in behind, and Weston McKinney plays probably the best pass of the game to Tim Weah. Weah makes a nice half turn, is about to shoot whenever a Swiss defender makes a beautiful last-minute tackle to save the chance. Weston McKinney, I said this about Serginho Dest earlier on, but he's a player of a certain quality that is going to produce one great moment for the U.S. men's national team every game, and we saw that. This was that one great moment. Unfortunately, we weren't able to capitalize on it, but other than that one great moment, boy, I need a lot more from Weston McKinney. And that brings us to the end of the game, and I think that brings us to the first talking point that I really want to get into, and that's that the two weakest performances I think that got put in was probably by the two players who were the best on paper coming into this game. I mean, Weston McKinney and Serginho Dest. Serginho Dest had a howler, man. He had some tough positional deficiencies in defense. He missed his best opportunity for one-on-one with the keeper. And then he had that handball. He left Brooks out to dry a few times. He had that donkey kick that gave up the second goal. Just not a great game for Serginho Dest. And then Weston McKinney didn't exactly have a bad game per se, but he didn't bring the quality that you expect to see from Weston McKinney. He didn't bring the quality that you expect to see from a guy wearing the armband, and he certainly wasn't the emotional leader that we wanted to see on the field. I mean, the U.S. just lacked it out there. We didn't really play with that intensity. Now, granted, it was a friendly, and it was this last game in the Swiss Alps, and it was, after a long season. And I did make this point in my live stream. If you listen to the interviews from a lot of the players coming into this camp, not a lot of them were talking about Nations League. And they did just have a long season. They had to deal with the COVID. A lot of them were facing relegation or promotion. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that happened this season. And finally, the season's over, and he has an opportunity to go home, go on vacation, really kind of cut loose and enjoy himself. But he's got this U.S. men's national team camp and this Nations League, and you wonder where the players' heads are at. Are they like seniors in high school right now who are on the last week of senior year and are already thinking about summer vacation and graduation? Do they have senioritis right now? Are they really checked in? And I think this game showed us that there was really something lacking in their mentality heading into this game and their intensity that they brought to the field. And hopefully this game served as a wake-up call because, boy, if you're reading the press clippings, they're tuning into the Yank Report week in and week out. They're hearing that, they're the most talented players that the U.S. has ever had, and the U.S. has held these high expectations, and we're just going to run over teams from now on. But, man, if you don't bring the intensity required at the international level, you're going to get exposed no matter how good you are, and we saw that today. And one thing we know about CONCACAF opponents, they're going to bring intensity. They're going to play with a ton of emotion. They're going to be physical, they're going to be in your face, and they're going to give it to you for 90 minutes. So if you come out flat like that against Honduras, it's going to be a tough afternoon, no matter how much better we are than them. That's something that has to change in the next few days between now and then. I don't know if you guys saw the Mexico game a few days ago, but Irving Lozano came on at the 60th minute mark and scored 2 goals immediately and was just absolute dynamite. So whenever you got a player like that you're potentially playing in a week, boy, that's scary. That's something that we got to figure out right now. So hopefully this will serve as the wake-up call that we needed heading into these all-important knockout Nations League matches. Now, one thing that we got to keep an eye on is Tyler Adams is still questionable, I guess, at this point. We don't know for sure if he's going to play in that Honduras game or if he's going to be able to play later on. From what I understand, his back has healed, but he still has some nerve issues that he's kind of working through. So we'll see what happens in the next few days. We know that Tyler Adams can be be an enormous boom for this team. If he's on the field, it's going to change the way this team plays. It probably changes the way that this game against Switzerland played out. So that would be a big plus if he's available. Now, this video has gone on real long, and I got to get out of here because I actually got a crawfish boil going on in my house, and I'm trying to get to that right now. So guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you speak Spanish, please leave a comment in Spanish. Let me know what you thought about this game. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching at this point and you are not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button so you can see me again. Thank you guys for helping us get to 4,000 subscribers. That's freaking awesome. And at some point, I'm going to put together a thank you video or something like that. But it's just been a little crazy right now. If you want to support the channel, the best way you can do that is to hit that like button. It helps out so much. It helps the video go far and wide, helps with the YouTube algorithm and all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again throughout this Nations League window. My name is Sam, and this is the Yank Report.